know it happened to me, getting smacked by Suge Smith. But Will Smith practices selective outrage. Because everybody knows what happened. Everybody that really knows I had nothing to do with that. I didn't have any entanglements.
That, of course, is from the Chris Rock special, which is now airing on Netflix. And that was what everybody was waiting to hear. What was he going to say about Will Smith? And, of course, it got on. But that's not the purpose of my commentary today. What is it that he said that's got the liberals all in a twist and actually now trying to cancel Chris Rock? And it had nothing to do with the infamous slap at the Oscars.
Let's get ready to rumble! You can't handle the truth.
So just about a year since that infamous slap that Will Smith gave to Chris Rock at the Oscars after Chris had made a joke about Jada appearing in a remake of G.I. Jane. The joke was what it was, but, Will Smith initially laughed, then he caught, out of the corner of his eye, Jada's reaction, and so up on the stage he went. And, as Chris Rock points out, you may not be able to tell this just by watching it on television, but Will Smith is significantly bigger than Chris Rock. He said, Will Smith played Muhammad Ali on the movies. He said, do you think I tried out for that part? He said, I played Pookie in New Jack City. So he was basically pointing out that after Jada had an affair with their son's friend, wrap your head around that in the age. And again, what Chris Rock was talking about was apparently not off limits because Will Smith and his wife talked about it openly online. And Jada interviewed her husband how he felt about the whole affair. Wait, what? Why you would do that? I mean, that's just so many levels of, I don't even know how to explain it. So everybody in the entertainment world, in particular in the black entertainment community, they went after Will Smith for humiliating himself by sitting down for an interview like that with his wife. And Chris Rock did use the B word a lot in describing what everybody was saying about Will Smith. He goes, they all said that and I got punched. And so that's not the part of the program the liberals have problems with, because that came at the very end. Chris Rock makes a great statement, but he weaves it throughout the entire special. And Chris Rock does the same thing that Bill Burr does. He starts out saying exactly what liberal people in particular want to hear and agree with and nod their head and affirm. And then with the punchline, he gives it a twist and they're like, wait, what? But Chris Rock has said for years, look, I'm like most people. On some things, I'm kind of liberal. There's a lot of things I'm kind of conservative. And so he kind of describes where the average person is at. Nobody wants to see inequality, injustice, people being treated unfairly, badly. We don't want people hurt, etc. On the same token, we're not necessarily all jumping up and down to take care of a bunch of people who are basically refusing to get a job and take care of themselves, and they basically just want to lay around all day and play video games. So that was just... That's where Chris Rock has been his whole life. He did a whole thing once with Jesse Jackson when Chris Rock still had a TV show, and they were talking about urban blight and urban neighborhoods. And Chris Rock, Jesse was on his role about, racism, oppression, and Chris Rock stopped him and said, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't care how poor you are. You can put the lid on your garbage can in front of your apartment. I don't care how poor you are. You can clean your apartment. You can wash your clothes. And he was kind of walking him through what you would call just some kind of common sense thinking. So Chris Rock has always been this way. But there were two areas that he got into that really incensed the libloons on Twitter. He went after Meghan Markle and said, wait. This woman marries into a colonial family and now wants to cry racism. He said, it ain't racism.
Everybody trying to be a victim. Like, what's this girl, Meghan Markle? Seemed like a nice lady. Just complaining. I was like, didn't she hit the light skin lottery? And still going on complaining. They're so racist, they're so racist. Some of that she went through was not racism. It was just some in-law No, but they're so racist. They wanted to know how brown the baby was gonna be. They're so racist, they wanted to know how brown the baby's gonna be. I'm like, that's not racist. Because even black people want to know how brown the baby gonna be. We check behind them ears.
Now, he used that as another jumping off point that Will Smith suffering from selective outrage, liberals suffer from selective outrage. That's that twist that Chris Rock is really good at bringing into his stand-up. He brings it around that he's not simply talking about, Will Smith, all of a sudden decided to be outraged that somebody said something about his wife when they had been talking about her literally for months and months and months, and he takes it out on a guy he knows can't fight back. And the same is true with Meghan Markle. That was another jumping off point that Chris said, I am tired of people claiming victimhood who are not victims. And he goes on to explain what we've all said. Somebody who is a real victim, we want them to get the help they need. We want them to get the justice they deserve. But if everybody's a victim, then nobody's a victim. And when everybody claims victim status, well, then Houston, we're going to have a problem because nobody's going to then give credence to real victims. It takes away from what they've been through. He then moved on to the other sacred cow liberals don't want touched, mentioned, transgenderism. And of course, he begins it by saying, hey, being an entertainer and working in the entertainment world, I can tell you I work with all kinds of people, beautiful people, wonderful people, talented people, etc., etc., etc. And he said, I'm for, and he went on and on and on and on and on about all that. And then came the twist. He said, but if my dad put on a wig and heels and told me he was now my mother, I might not have a problem with it. But you knew there was a killer punchline coming. But my brother is going to have a problem with it. And then he talks about, a fictitious family get-together where dad comes out, dressed like a woman. And again, it was Chris Rock telling you exactly what he thinks of woke transgenderism without going directly at it like a J.K. Rowling or Dave Chappelle. He kind of backdoors it, but he delivers the punch. And he goes on to talk about, half the country, women can't get abortions now, and I'm for a woman's right to choose. And then he gives really, it's not funny, but it is funny when he talks about he can give his opinion on this because he's paid for more abortions than any other man. And I have no doubt that some of that's probably true, and on one level, that's very sad. And he really kind of tips his hand there that the reason that he wants abortion to stay legal is so that, he doesn't have to be responsible for, the children he's birthed or the children that he conceived, helped to conceive. But then he makes this, after he goes on, and of course the women are all applauding and because they're into this. He's I'm for you. I'm for your right over your body. I am for your right to kill your baby. Boom! Said it. Just like that. I mean, boom, shakalaka boom, shakalaka boom. So, he does this special where really, everybody's waiting for him to get to the whole Jada Will Smith thing. But what he really did was he went after wokeism. And that just got people incensed on Twitter. But the cherry on the sundae was when he was talking about his mother. And that his mother had been brought up in America at a time when there really was overt racism and segregation, and she was in the South. And as a girl, if there was not a dentist that would treat colored people, his mother had to go to the veterinarian. That she had to suffer the indignity as a human being of going to a veterinarian to be treated. But he said, look how things are now. He said, my oldest daughter is in culinary school in Paris, France. And twice a year, my mother gets on a plane and flies first class to Paris, France, to spend time with my daughter. And then he kept saying it. I ain't no victim. Boom. And then he told about a story that he claims that his family, all of them, were just hearing it for the first time in this live special on Netflix. That he wanted his daughter to have some character. That he was concerned that because she grew up rich, and he did not grow up rich. He grew up poor. He became rich, through comedy, and ended up. I love that when he said he had to give half of it to his wife, in their divorce settlement. He goes, and she ain't funny at all, and that was just that was funny. But he was worried that his daughter and that rich kids are missing out on something. And he was making a subtle point here that it's not about skin color. That's not what gives you your privilege. It's another color that gives you your privilege. The color is green. Money. And that the reason kind of rich kids end up like they end up is because of their money and their status. There's never any real consequences for them. And that his daughter and some of her friends went to a very exclusive, school. They were on a student trip. And they snuck out, went to a club, got drunk, got caught, and were being threatened with expulsion. And all the other parents lawyered up. They're going to sue the school. Because again, these are rich people, and you're not going to embarrass me by punishing my child. And Chris Rock did the unthinkable.
I love my kids, but I don't like them. One of the reasons I don't like my kids? Because my kids are rich. My kids are rich and spoiled. I know some people like, Chris, you rich? Yeah, I'm rich. But I identify as poor. One day, I come home from work, and I see Lola outside just laughing with like 3 of her little white girlfriends. You ever just want to choke your child for smiling? So I walk over to Lola. I'm like, Lola, what's so funny? And Lola's like, Daddy, stop it. You're so serious. I'll be back in school in no time. And I'm like, look at this smug mother. And at that moment, I kind of snapped. And I got back in the car. I drove to the school and I found the dean. I was like, hey, we need to talk. I know you're going through it right now. I know you got a lot of parents trying to sue you and trying to sue the school and trying to get you fired, but I need a favor. I need you to kick my daughter out of this school. I need my black child to learn her lesson right now. And to this day, Lola has no idea I had anything to do with that. And her mother has no idea I had anything to do with it. And the lawyer has no idea. And they won't find out till they see this on Netflix.
He taught his daughter character, that you own up to your responsibilities, you take the punishment that's coming, you don't get beaten by it, but you learn from it, you move on, and you turn it into something good. And look where she is now. And Chris kept saying, I am no victim. I am no victim. I'll tell you why liberals hate this special by Chris Rock. Liberals do not win by turning you into a champion. They win by keeping you as a permanent victim. That you can't make it without them. You need them. You need their programs, which in turn means you will keep voting for them because them is taking care of you. That's how liberalism works. They do not want you to be a strong, decisive individual. They do not want you to be a success. They do not want you to go out and to be able to think for yourself and to be able to achieve for yourself. Remember, it was not simply, Joe Biden just being stupid during the 2020 campaign when he basically said, quote, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. In other words, what he's saying is, hey, and there's a word I want to use here, not because of prejudice, but because that is exactly what Joe Biden was thinking in the moment. Hey, you, my party takes care of you. My party gives you what you need to survive, because we don't think you can do it on your own anyway. My party takes care of you. You will take care of me. That was what he was telling the entire black population in this country. Even Charlemagne was like, wait, did you just say what I think you said? And then he made it even worse later on when he talked about that Latinos have diversity of thought and diversity of perspectives, and we needed to work harder to, quote, reach Latinos because Donald Trump was reaching Latinos. And again, the black community stood up and said, so what? We just all do the same thing and other people think and we don't. And I'm here to tell you, Black America, that is exactly what liberals think of you. They are the new plantation masters. Have you not figured this out? They have put you in a form of economic slavery. They don't want you to achieve. They want you to constantly be angry. They don't mind it when you protest and burn stuff down as long as it somehow makes Republicans and conservatives look bad. They don't care that you're always riled up over race, and they want you riled up over that. But yet take a look around and ask yourself the question, well, who's leading me? Joe Biden isn't exactly Malcolm X. He's pale, male, and stale. And yet, he's lecturing you on your rights and your equality, and he's for you. You better be for him. And Chris Rock was basically blowing that entire thing up by saying, don't let them make you a victim. That's a very conservative thing. That's a very, I hate to say this, and some of you heads will explode. That's a very Trumpian thing to say. This idea that you live in a country where, yes, if you work hard and you make some connections, you can achieve. You can start out here, but you can get here. It's possible. Bill Maher, I'm getting ready to do a commentary on this. Bill Maher got Bernie Sanders to basically admit that he doesn't understand the difference between equality and equity. See, the left is constantly now talking about equity, 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 equity. If you're not careful, you're going to think that's the same thing as equality, and it's not. It is not the same thing. Equality is having an equal opportunity, that everybody starts at the same place and you get an opportunity. And even if you don't start at the same place, we'll get you to the right starting place, but at some point you got to pick this ball up and you got to make it happen. We'll give you an equal shot, an equal opportunity. Equity is saying, hey, no matter how unskilled you are, no matter how much talent you don't have, we're going to give you the same thing as everybody else. Chris Rock blew that out of the water in this special. He kept saying, I'm no victim. You're not going to see me on Oprah's couch crying that Will Smith hit me and I love Men in Black. Why did he do this? It was great. It was as it's supposed to be. Humor with a biting satire to it. Now, Chris Rock used a lot of language that, that ain't me. And but that's what Chris Rock does, and he speaks to a culture that I don't speak to, and I don't agree with all of his political ideology. And on some ways, I'd love to explain to him, you're on the right thought train, you're on the right direction, you got it. So why do you keep supporting and voting for politicians who aren't there? Like you and Bill Maher, you keep voting for all these liberal loons who just keep making your life more miserable. More mandates, more nonsense, more masks, more this, more that, do this, do that. When really, you've been led to believe that on the right, they're just liars and they're crazy. No, we're about freedom, baby. We're about freedom. You do you. And as long as what you're doing doesn't infringe on somebody else's rights, you do you. When you start passing laws, well, we got to make it fair for everybody. You've automatically made it unfair for somebody else. I've told this illustration before. I'm going to tell it again. So years ago, my sons were young, and I was a Little League coach, and I was going to our community Little League meeting. And my wife had asked me to please not come back with any more responsibilities other than coaching. Friend of mine had been our league president for a couple of years. He was stepping down, and we were going to be voting on that night a new league president. And there was this woman who wanted the job. And she began to tell us what her ideas were, that she wanted to, for our local chapter, she wanted to change some of the rules. Well, right away, that perks up our ears. And she starts talking about things like, she wants to make it fair for everybody. And immediately I'm sitting there thinking, this is going to be a disaster. And so, Little League is broken down in leagues, and at different levels, there's different expectations of the players. Basically, T-ball, the idea is to just get them all out there, and we know half of them are going to sit down on the ground and pick dandelions and not even pay attention to what's going on. That's the beginner, that's where it all starts. And then the leagues progressively go up from there. But she wanted, even in the top tier, if somebody drops the ball, a fielder, they feel bad. It needs to count as an out. We're like, wait, what? It needs to be counted as an out. That's fair. He tried, he made effort, and we need to reward the effort. Now, I could tell everybody around me was not comfortable with any of these suggestions that she was making about making it fair. But they weren't going to say anything, because this is the People's Republic of New York, and they don't want to be accused of being, So little old me raised his hand and said, well, what about the kid that hit the ball? Isn't he going to feel bad that he's really not out, but you're going to call him out? And she thought for a minute. She said, we'll count it as an out, but he can still go to first base. Like, wait, what? Well, he can run the bases, but his run won't count. I just looked at everybody and said, this is lunacy. When I said that, one of the other guys said, I nominate Bramer for president. Somebody else immediately said, I second it. And within 13 seconds, there was a vote taken, and I was voted in as the Little League president. And Had to go home and explain to my wife how that happened. My point is, when somebody says we're going to make it fair for everybody, no. You're automatically making it unfair for somebody else. And the reality is, not every kid can play baseball. But then again, not every kid can sit down and do computer programming and design software and, so this whole equity nonsense and this everybody's a victim, man. I'm a victim. Take care of me. And Chris Rock blew that up. And that's why the liberals are blowing their minds.